From the Multifamily Studios in Scottsdale, Arizona, with Patrick and Carrie Antrim. Live today in Multifamily.
All right. Hello, everyone.
All right. I love that applause. That was pretty awesome. Lots of happy people out there right now. This is exciting.
Happy people in North Carolina, California, Arizona, Georgia, New York, Texas. Thank you guys so much for chatting us where you're watching from today.
Yeah, today we've got a great show ahead. We've got the co-founder and co-CEO, John Griggs, on the show. He's talking about what multifamily investors need to know right now on operating, creating results, and even in really sometimes uncertain times. So listen, companies have been put to the test. It's one thing to create a culture when everything is going great and you're trying to differentiate and create some innovations in the business, but what do you do when times get tough? How do you protect that culture? How do you create results? And so we brought on the president or co-founder and co-CEO, John Griggs, with Presidium Property Management.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that.
So we're excited to see that.
Hey, thanks again for tuning in. We are coming to you live from Scottsdale, Arizona, from the Multifamily Studios. We are happy to take your comments and questions throughout the show, whether you're watching on live.multifamilystudios.com. You'll see the chat function there. You can chat us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. We're everywhere.
Yep. Absolutely, absolutely, and we can see those comments and ask John questions live to get his expert responses on that. So very good stuff. Listen, this show is sponsored by Event Lab Studios. And Event Lab Studios, this is where successful entrepreneurs, thought leaders, corporate companies go to get their events produced, and more so now that events are going virtual. So Event Lab Studios, go see them at eventlabstudios.com. And I will fully disclose, we own that studio.
That is us.
Glad to see that we've stepped up and sponsored our own show.
I know. I mean, it's about time. So, all right. Hey, thanks, Ohio, for tuning in, and Illinois. Yeah, we got Illinois in the house, Georgia, Texas. Arizona's leading the pack this morning. I love that.
Illinois is stepping up.
Oh, man. Oh, Texas.
Come on, Texas.
Texas always wins. If you're wondering what we're talking about, oh, there you go. You'll see that on the screen. We have this lovely word cloud going in. So if you'd like to represent wherever you're watching from, go ahead and tune in on live.multifamilystudios.com and you can participate in our fun.
Yeah, that's you can still comment on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn and all those places, and we will see those comments, but definitely at multifamilylive.com you can see some of those fun things that we do over there.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got registration is open for the Best Places to Work Multifamily 2021 program. Okay. You can get registered at bestplacestoworkmultifamily.com. This year's already shaping up to be another year of growth, just an incredible program.
Yeah, not only and we're talking a little bit about that today. I mean, it's one thing to be in a program like this and research and engage your employees when times are great, but this is the time when employees need us most. So I'm excited to see some of the amazing brands that come through that. Continue to make that a top priority. And truly learn some really interesting things, around the best places to work. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I'll talk about what's really new in this year's program. We've got the COVID testing, so it's like, what are the workforce experiencing as a result of going through this? How did my company respond? Did I feel safe? Did my employer react in the way that helped me feel that they cared about me? There's also a work from home component too. So we've learned a lot about what are the needs, the resources, from cybersecurity all the way to who has the right equipment. But things like, am I distracted at work? Can I get the work done? Do I have the right resources? Do I feel like I have the right equipment? There's another work from home survey that we've added in there at no additional cost for this year's program, obviously responding to the current realities of what we're going through. And then more importantly, these are really just helpful for organizations to understand.
Right.
But it doesn't really impact your rankings, right? So we don't want to hold you accountable to as we move forward in future years, as how the world of work changes, maybe those are some of the things that we've worked in.
Integrated in, right?
But right now, it's good for you to know this data, take that back, make some good decisions, and truly pulse the employees on, do they feel that their needs are being met and engaged on that project? Because this is time we need them most.
Yeah, my favorite question on that statement is, I am able to do my job while working from home with minimal distractions. I think we've all realized if you have kids, if you have pets, if you have neighbors that have landscapers, like there's no working from home without distractions. I think that's funny. And I was listening to the radio this morning on the way in, and they were talking about the 10 most embarrassing things that happen on a Zoom meeting, right? And it was like the number one was saying a big, wonderful speech and realizing you've been on mute the whole time. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But it was a lot about distractions and your kids walking in through the door and things like that. It's pretty funny.
And there's some pretty bad ones out there saying the wrong things. Be careful. It's a true test of the revealing of who we are.
It sure is.
Well, let's talk about John. What we've got him coming up. Do you want to go through a little bit of what's exciting about that segment?
Yeah. So John is running Presidium Property Management. They're a multi-year list maker on the best places to work multifamily. They're just a great organization to work with. I work closely with their COO and their team members. John has led Presidium from infancy to a $2.5 billion valued organization.
Yeah.
Right?
And that growth is not easy. So.
Well, no. They started with 2 people.
Yeah.
2 people. Now they're a powerhouse with more than 250 employees, 12 collaborative departments. I'm going to save that. I'm going to talk about a little bit about that later with John. But he has expanded Presidium from Dallas into 7 new markets. So we're really excited to talk to John and just get his insights on everything that's happening today and how he was able to do that and what he's got planned for the future.
Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go. You want to just go right into what's happening this week?
Yeah, hey, we've also got Colorado is now vying for a top spot. Thanks, Colorado, for tuning in.
Well, they're in the news this week.
Kansas. We're going to talk about Colorado. Yeah, in our
news.
news. Kansas is here. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. So listen, first up, we've got a story coming to you from multifamilybiz.com. Our first story is the Opus Group and joint venture partner Principal Real Estate Investors announced the start of a construction on a new multifamily development near Empower Field at Mile High. Now, Denver is one of the fastest growing U.S. cities with more than 80,000 residents living within a 1.5 mile radius of the urban core and central business district. Colorado is also one of the healthiest states. So obviously a lot of outdoor activities, hiking, biking, active. So this community is kind of facilitating that. They have, I'm looking at my notes here, a 2-level fitness center, lap pool, they have bike storage, upscale amenities including 2 club rooms and a deck with a communal kitchen and grilling area so all their residents can hang out. I thought that was really interesting.
Well, we're certainly seeing a lot of re-envisioning. I mean, amenities and what's important is a constant, focus for developers. And this will be interesting to watch. Again, go to multifamilybiz.com. Check out that news story. You can link actually to those sites and explore those assets. But, we learned this in the documentary about re-envisioning amenities, but the idea of home ownership and then also benefiting from living in this sort of resort-style atmosphere. And then I'm also tracking people that are doing these types of things that are not building all these amenities, but how do you do similar things? What can you learn from a company like this?
Right.
And take back to your operations?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
Our next story is Greystone and Lappin Associates announced a joint venture that will deploy capital for the financing, preservation, and stabilization of affordable multifamily housing. I thought this was very interesting. The CEO and founder of Greystone, Stephen Rosenberg, says, the nation's affordable housing stock is in crisis, but there is a proven method for preserving properties both financially and physically with the help of government-backed loans and a strategic plan for long-term upgrades and efficiency. I thought this is really important. especially with our focus on affordable housing, and I know you
right.
have interviewed
well, it's
experts.
Just more supply, more stock, like they said in the article. This is a good positive trend to see. More to watch on that. Again, stay tuned to that, multifamilybiz.com. Now, multifamilybiz.com is north of 1.2, almost 1.4 million monthly viewers. Head on over there and see what's happening in news. A lot of great stuff. These are just a couple of the top articles that we're featuring this week. Head on over there and check it out more. Let's do a real quick recap before we go into...
Yeah, I think we just jumped right in. If you're just now joining us, my name is Carrie Antrim. This is my husband and co-host Patrick Antrim. We come to you live every Friday from sunny Scottsdale, Arizona in the Multifamily Studios. We've got a question here from Dan, who's just joining us. He missed info on how to register for Best Places to Work. So you're gonna go to bestplacestowworkmultifamily.com, and you can find all of the details there, the timeline, the registrations, all the information you need there. You can also reach out to Patrick and I, for further information on that.
Yes, and Dan, also, if you go to multifamilyleadership.com, you'll see a button on there that says BPW. That will get you all the notifications, what's happening with the program, deadlines, things like that. Definitely head on over there. But yes, correct. Best Places to Work, multifamily.com.
Yep. Thanks for your question there,
for
Dan.
that. Let's talk a little bit about, we just came off the Ops Summit.
We did.
And we've been working, those of you that don't know, we produced a national, well, technically global event, and we had 2967, I think, live.
To be exact.
Yeah, not all at the same time, but throughout the 2-day event we had one of our largest events we've ever produced.
Yeah.
And it was exciting to reach people at scale, and we had 20 amazing speakers and guests both in the studio and virtual, really go deep on what's happening now in multifamily, how do you manage through the operations in the current state of where we are and what to look for going forward. But you can go to multifamilyopsummit.com and learn more about that. You can get access to the recordings and the show notes. So I want to show you the show notes. We had a professional, one of our editorial writers, produced for you the show notes. So when you access the show notes, I'm going to pull them up here on my screen. When you pull these up, you'll see that the notes, we've got tables of contents of, we've got Coach Dar, the Freemans, Future of Leasing, a leadership vision for impact and growth, access control with Smart Rent, we've got people over process. I mean, you've got all 20 sessions right here. And what we've done for you is we've built out this so that you can quickly get to the information that's important. Right, so we've got timestamps in each one of these sessions. You will see if you want to learn about that one thing, you can go to 22 minutes, 40 seconds into the show. This is all about giving you your time back, getting you access to the information, the strategies, the capabilities that are necessary for you to level up and go to the next level in your business. So, for example, this is disappearing disappointments. Imagine if when things are going well, you're able to jump in there, create new expectations and alignments with people to disappear disappointments. And it's exciting because in this session, the Freemans talked exactly how to do that. People were walking away and commenting about how this is improving not only, them in business, but also in their personal life as well. So I'm going to scroll through here, and you can see on the notes here, it just goes on, and we've got, 145 pages here of content that is going to help you get what you need. You can go to multifamilyopsummit.com and get access to that. So I would highly encourage you to do that. A lot of work's been put into this, and I'm super excited about it because, if you went to this event, number one, when you go to events, you can't go to every session. And when you go to this session, imagine somebody professionally able to write down all the important facts, links to the things that were referenced, and timestamps.
I wish I had notes like that when I was in college. I'll tell you, my notes never look like that.
Those were those little yellow books.
Well, that is yellow and black, right? Cliff took my notes.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Very cool.
Those look amazing. Those are awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work went into that. Yeah, no, you should be. Those are great. All right, so listen, don't forget, we are about to talk with John, but you can put in your questions, comments, and we will try to get to as many of those as we can on air. And I think it's time.
Yes.
Yeah, so now's the time to introduce our guest, John Griggs. He's the co-founder and co-CEO of Presidium Property Management. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Well, we're so glad to have you. Thanks for making the time.
Absolutely.
We got a little time to chat before we went on and talked about how hot it is in Scottsdale and how hot it is where you are.
Yep.
Summer's
arrived.
Yeah.
So, question for you, John. Look, we in the intro we teased a little bit about some of the things you've done for your organization, but what was it like going from that 2 employees to now 250? That growth, I could just imagine sometimes that growth is exciting, but also it could be hard.
No, absolutely. And no, I appreciate the question. I mean, we started the company, my business partner, I started 17 years ago with some fourplexes right near you guys in Mesa, Arizona. And fairly quickly, kind of bought and sold those, and then bought some larger properties in Dallas and then Houston in 2005, 2006, and really went from 30 units to 5,000 in a 3-year period. And it was frenetic, it was exciting, it was scary, it was all those things. It really forces you to focus on what's important and get the right people in the right seats. And there's some bumps in the road. It's not it's not a linear path. There's some ups and downs, but the real key to getting beyond that, once you sort of get the building blocks in place, it's really having the right team. And when you kind of build the building blocks of the right team, kind of beneath the executive, at the executive level, and then you can really start to fill out the organization. So it's still challenging today to manage the whole thing, but it's been fun. It's been a 17-year overnight success story.
I love that.
Absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about you talk about the 30 units even to the 5,000. Talk to me a little bit about the portfolio itself. I mean, what's the makeup of the assets and the class of assets? And
yeah, no, that makes sense. So we have about 13,000 apartment units right now, mostly in Texas, but also some in Florida. We have been in Arizona and Oklahoma before. We have some units up in Maine, of all places, too. But we really, actively, I like to think, kind of perfected the value add model in the kind of the first half of the last decade, from about 2012 to 2016. We bought and renovated over 10,000 units, mostly in the major metros of Texas. And we still have most of those. And we took, older product that's 70s, 80s, 90 build and fixed it up and gave it a facelift and made it much more attractive to the residents. So that was sort of the core of our business until about 5 years ago. We got headlong into development 5 or 6 years ago, and now that's really become sort of what we're doing most now. We love value add, and we can't wait to get back into it. The pricing has been challenging for going in and buying new assets there, but we're developing a lot of assets. We've built or have under construction over 2,000 units, and we'll break ground on another 1,000 this year. So all over DFW, Austin, San Antonio, and in Jacksonville, Florida. Those are kind of our main markets. But great markets. We would love to be in Phoenix as well. Las Vegas would be something we'd look at. Other cities in Florida. We love kind of the southern markets. I feel like there's just lots of opportunity there.
Wow, that's really exciting. I love your growth plan there. How are you managing the different asset classes? I would imagine it takes different skills.
A little bit. I mean, there's definitely obviously physical differences between a 30-year-old asset that has aging infrastructure and lots of maintenance needs versus a brand new shiny asset where everything works perfectly. So the people who are on site at those projects definitely need to have different skill sets as far as just the nuts and bolts of daily operations. But what we found is there's probably more similarities than differences to what it takes to be a successful team member on these various assets. It's really customer service orientation, strong positive attitude, engagement with other team members. I mean, if you have and good knowledge, of course, of the business, but if you have those key attributes, you can shift around from various types of assets and various geographies.
Yeah, so let me dive back into the development conversation. How are you feeling, I guess, today, given the nature of how things are shifting from even virtual tours and things like that? Are you guys thinking differently about the development process now?
A little bit. I mean, we've, development's such a long lead time endeavor that we slowed down when COVID was sort of, when really the country was shut down for a couple months. We put some projects kind of on hold for a while, but in the last weeks we've re-engaged on most of those. And just looking at, projects that we're thinking about now that we'll break ground on in, 6 to 12 months, they won't be leasing until 2022. So we're fairly confident that we'll be in a much better situation then. As far as kind of what we look at a little differently, pre-COVID versus post, I mean, most of our stuff is generally suburban assets, whether it's garden or mid-rise. So I feel like those are going to be doing well regardless. We don't really have kind of a high-rise concentration. We'd like to do that one day, but I think that would be challenging right now, I think, to convince investors and lenders that now is a good time to start on one of those. But, it'll be interesting to see how amenities and other things kind of shake in this new reality. And we're tracking that constantly and trying to be thoughtful about it.
Yeah, and so being on doing the value add, the reposition, and even managing assets, how early do you integrate the teams in that development process? Is that in the planning and the design? How early are they involved? Because obviously that seems to be a great competitive advantage if you know some of those elements up front.
Yeah, absolutely, and we get kind of all the groups involved very early at the planning stages, so that when we're looking at really unit mixes and unit sizes and amenity mixes and amenity profile, our operations team is in that conversation and giving us real at the ground advice on here's what works and here's what doesn't. Here's what this market and this sub-market is really looking for based on our experience in the area. I think that's really invaluable to have that integration from the get-go, the genesis of these projects, bringing our team members together with all that market knowledge and operational expertise. It really helps us build a quality product that doesn't just look good but perform well, and is somewhere that residents really enjoy living.
Well, thinking about enjoying living, also enjoying working, John, coming through the multi-year program for Best Places to Work. You've got the magazine there.
I do. I have our magazine here, and it's got the Presidium spread. I'm not sure if you can see it here, but yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with that, John.
Know it well. Yeah.
But listen, I read something interesting here that I wanted to talk about a little further. It says here that knowing that not every road is perfectly straight, Presidium allows team members to explore opportunities on other teams within the organization in addition to their own. Can you kind of embellish on that and let us know how that process works? I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, no, thank you. We really think it's important for all team members to understand kind of the greater, kind of 30,000-foot view of what we're trying to do as a company and really how different groups fit together. So, I mean, we have people sort of shadow other groups and spend time with other groups and try to understand exactly what we're trying to accomplish in all regards of the business. And we have our accountants will do site visits and look at, and they're often just generally doing the books and looking at numbers, but we think it's important for them to understand the assets that that they're doing financial analysis on. So they'll go to a site and do a tour and look at it and talk to the team members. Obviously we have our operations team heavily involved on the development side. We have, generally, obviously office environments are a little challenging these days, but we try to have, especially, obviously when things were a lot more social in the workplace, but really have social events that bring together team members, bring offices together, and have folks really get to know each other, so that when they see an email from someone, they know who that is and they know what that person is trying to accomplish in the organization. We think that's just vital.
I love that. I think that's great. It also talks in here about, surprise treats, office pranks, popcorn.
Office pranks.
I don't know if any of those things are happening now.
Office pranks.
I don't know if you're having any Zoom pranks or anything like that right now.
A little tougher now. Yeah.
He's going to get a pie in the face right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe everybody needs to receive some popcorn in the mail or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Right.
That's great.
One of the reasons we brought you on today was to talk about, look, a lot of people, they do a lot of great things to put out messaging and really effort to create a culture and engage employees. And, we've benefited from many years of great market conditions, great external circumstances, and we've recently been put to the test here. And so the question I have for you really is, given the nature of what we've been through as an industry, as a world, as a country, as a community, what are some things that we can do to, create similar results, but also in times of, when things are stressing or things aren't always as great? What do you do to protect that culture? And, are we going back to basics? What are we doing here?
Right. It's interesting when we think about creating a great culture for our company, and it really comes down to how we treat each other. I've been doing this long enough and have lived through a few booms and busts, and you recognize certain patterns. Up until 6 months ago, there was almost an arms race for how lavish company events would be, and kind of how far people would go with decorating their corporate offices and all sorts of things that are nice to have. But when things shift, and in this case they shifted, this is when companies' cultures really, really shine through, and you see kind of who's really looking out for their entire staff, and maybe who wasn't, right? It's as things have gotten very rocky. We've really focused on a few things. One, just keeping our staff engaged with each other, letting them know we're here for them. And really, the paramount thing in the last few months is focusing on their health and making sure we're doing everything we can, both in our corporate offices and our sites, to make sure that our employees are protected, our residents are protected, the best we can. Obviously, this is really a totally new situation for everybody, but we have several team members who really spend the entirety of their time keeping up with best practices, keeping up with data, making sure we're doing everything we can to keep our employees safe and keep our residents safe. And I think, I think it is appreciated, and I think it's something that people notice. And the other thing is we're just trying to keep the gang together here. We haven't laid off any employees. We're keeping our staffs intact, and we're going to fight through this, and we're going to get to the other side. And it's going to be a battle, but we went into this together, and we'll come out of it together, and I think we'll come out stronger.
Now, so I love that you're actively collecting data and keeping a pulse on everything that's happening. And I think, for everybody, things change daily. It seems, minute to minute here. So at some point, I'm confident that we will all be cleared. This will end, and we'll all be able to go back to work and things like that. Are you paying attention to the changes the long-term changes that might come out of this current situation? Do you have data on that? Are you guys looking forward to those kind of things?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's interesting. This pandemic has taken so many twists and turns that it's. I definitely, we're all reading a lot about it, but it's still early to see kind of what some of those long-term shifts are going to be. I mean, obviously, if there's a cure or a vaccine, things probably go back to where they were before. If there isn't, we're going to have to live with this for a while. And that just has a whole new set of challenges. So, we're certainly thinking about things in our corporate offices and our site offices. We've reconfigured everything for this new reality. On the development side as well, we're looking at, our common areas are probably going to look different. And there may be some things that are just different going forward. And I think the one that we can be relatively pretty sure is something that's here to stay is people are going to be working from home more. Look, I think we all learned how to be productive at home. And if you had a 45-minute commute each way, that was just time away from your family and probably made you a less happy person. So to the extent we can have people working productively at home, I think that's a good thing. And that's something that apartments are obviously a big part of, because a lot of the people working from home are going to be working. So thinking about configuration of units for working at home, thinking about, kind of some shared workspaces in common areas and connectivity and things that make, a home, an apartment home, a comfortable place to do work. So that's something we're thinking about really on a macro level.
Yeah, we've been set up for many years technically as a virtual organization. Yeah. I mean, you've got the regional we've always had regional operations and things like that. I'm wondering, have the shift in terms of expectations of productivity? I can see you working. You're down the hall in the in the corporate office. I see you there. Yes, you're committed. You're in early. You're out late. Whatever that is. Are you seeing any shifts? And maybe this could be even beyond your even into your peer network, where how we assess shifting that role as a leader, like what to expect from others, more result-based versus seeing the work. I'm always curious to see how leaders are thinking about, like, if someone is at home, is there confidence that they're actually getting work done and getting the, sharing the priorities and things like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's certainly a challenge. And to your point that you made, I mean, what's interesting about multifamily is, in a way, we were probably much more prepared for this than other industries, because we have such a dispersed workforce at our sites, and we have a lot of corporate staff who are in the field all the time. So it is a little different for us to adapt to this than it would be, say a software company where 50 people are in one big open room and now they're working from home. So I mean, from that standpoint, it's a little easier for us to get there. But I absolutely know what you're saying about just sort of assessing kind of and being mindful of are people kind of working as hard as at getting things done. If you don't see them, it's always a natural thing to be curious about. And I would say this just really drives home the importance of having well integrated teams and great communication within a team. And I can tell you, I mean, the kind of 5 or 6 people that I talk to the most, I mean, there's no doubt that they're working at least as hard and producing all, massive amounts of value for the company. And I, because I'm in touch with them all the time and I know what they're doing. And there's open communication. So I think if you look at that kind of down a corporate chain, if you have teams that are of a manageable size and people are in communication, there really should be able to be a pretty high trust level, because people are constantly sharing what they're doing and they're working together, even though they're not physically in the same place. So yeah, it's definitely, it's a little bit of a new reality, but I feel like it just really accentuates the importance of teamwork and communication.
Yeah, that a lot of our viewers are looking for, how do you create that trust, and what are those communication steps that organizations are doing that's effective to, shift? Is it more communication, less check-ins? We're very good at creating reports.
Yes, we are. No, it's check-ins. I mean, it's funny. I was a lawyer before I started Presidium, but I remember I was working, and this was 20 years ago, in a law firm, and a senior guy I was working for would check in on what I was doing, and I was doing things for him. And after a while, this is very early on in my career, he said, just a piece of advice, John, you should be coming to me more than I'm coming to you. And that really stuck with me. And I think that's just something, it's a good piece of advice for junior folks. Really, I mean, we all have people that we report to. I have, investors and partners, but to be proactive about the communication is really important. And I think that's something that in this time is more important than ever. So if you haven't talked to somebody in a while, whether it's someone you report to or someone who works, give them a call, see what they're doing. And hopefully that just fosters just, a greater transparency, which is good.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Over here on LinkedIn, we've got Gwen Burnell. Hey, Gwen, thanks for tuning in. She says, setting clear and measurable goals and improving how teams communicate their status will work best. Setting clear and measurable goals is something we talk about quite a bit.
Yeah, and Gwen's a pro.
She sure is.
In just all of talent development, very strategic in how you build and design a community. Going back to what John, even the magazine, the things that you're talking about in the magazine, it's pretty compelling to talk about. Everything comes down to communication. Mm-hmm. Rent more, communication. Build more, communication. Solving the affordable housing problem, communication. Mm-hmm. You look at raising capital. It's just it's interesting. Is there stuff you're reading, or where are you going to get inspired? I guess around the leadership aspect. What do you tune into? I guess to next level what you're working on.
Yeah, this is really a because it's such a curveball thrown at us. It's a time when we can all learn from each other. So I'm having a lot of good conversations with certainly within the organization, but also with other leaders in the multifamily business and just in business in general. I'm pretty active in my YPO chapter and just talking to other CEOs across a wide variety of industries and how they're handling things and how they're keeping their teams together and motivated and cohesive. I find that really interesting. And I'd say too, in multifamily, I talk to other CEOs all the time. It's such a great business in that it's so collaborative. I'm not sure it's that way in every industry, but I can definitely say in multifamily where we sit in Texas, people are pretty open, and it's really good to talk to other people who are similarly situated because it's no one has all the answers and everything's changing every day. So those check-ins and trying to refine your whatever your best practices are, whether the things that are written down or the things that you just have as guiding principles. It's you can always learn something from someone else who's trying to get the same thing done.
Yeah, companies obviously being put to the test here. Are you, and people too? So, are you seeing some new skills, new values that reveal themselves in times like this that you realize, these are the skill sets that we need. And before when we had hurricanes, fires, we always had things that shifted our focus that were really beyond our control. But through this process, are you seeing any qualities in people that are bubbling up that give us sort of a competitive advantage to really thrive in these environments?
Yeah, no, to me, I think the biggest trait that enables someone to be successful is really just adaptability in this, because there's no playbook, and there's no, the last time this happened was 100 years ago in the United States, so there's really no roadmap. We learn about what's going on and read about what's going on and talk to people, but it's a dynamic situation and it's very fluid. So adaptability, being able to kind of to take the curveballs that come your way is really, it's very important, and to just react in a situation that's somewhat unprecedented, at least in all of our lifetimes and careers.
I agree with that. Talking about adaptability, like pre-pandemic, of course, we've all had to be adaptable at work, or something changes at home and you have to adapt and change. But when has it ever happened that's you have to change immediately. Everything you're doing every day, you have to adapt to this brand new situation that's happening that affects every aspect of your life, not just work or not just home, whatever. It's an all-encompassing kind of thing.
Yeah, it's life.
Yeah, absolutely. It is unique in every way. Yeah. No doubt about that.
Has the law degree positioned you uniquely, I guess, in all this? I mean, that's there's not. You have people in real estate, real transaction business, obviously, but a lot of times that's an outside firm or what have you. But when you have somebody in the organization that thinks, I did some. I became a court-appointed receiver. Went through the process at Loyola, and I learned. And I don't know if you remember this or even know what I'm talking about. If I'm probably going to hack this, but it was I think it was Iraq, which would issue rule, application to the rule, and conclusion. Like, how do you come up with closing arguments? But it allowed me to help keep sort of compliance to policy, but at the same time keep objective about things. But I was curious what that meant for you, kind of having that education coming into multifamily.
Yeah, no, it's been really helpful. I mean, obviously, it's as you mentioned, it's a very transaction-heavy business, and there's lots of documents, and it's just a very it's a contracts-heavy business. So being able to dive into a contract and look at it is helpful, but really just understanding kind of a landscape of really, who can do what to who in various situations is it's helpful. It's very helpful. Just understanding kind of liability and how to handle that and how to approach it, because that's something that obviously we're all cognizant of in our field.
That's great. Well, do you have any further questions for John?
I could stand in spot and continue this for a long time. I'd love to learn a little bit more about John in terms of how you see mentorship. Does that play a part in this process of improving communication? I know you talked a little bit about the check-ins and these types of things, and again, going back to the context of in times where there's pain, in times where things are difficult or challenging, what are some other tools that we can introduce into the organization that, it's one thing to have a conversation with your supervisor or the president, but how do you get the teams working together, and are there mentorships, or do you guys have programs like that that come through in times like this?
Yeah, no, I mean, we definitely have a robust sort of onboarding and kind of mentorship structure, which I think is really helpful. And it's so important for someone who's starting their career to be able to talk to someone who's been in it for a while and been through the ups and downs and the twists and turns, and can really look to them for that. And so we try to foster that formally and informally, really, at our company. And I think it's enormously helpful. And really, I think all of us kind of on the executive team really try to make ourselves available to everybody, and to kind of have an open door policy, and to be approachable, and to be available and accountable to the people that we serve, really. So I think that's that's very important as it goes in building a successful, cohesive organization that can handle all sorts of situations.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and sort of back to the basics. We talked offline a little bit about pre-COVID, talking about differentiating and really trying to stand out, be competitive, and things like that. But are you seeing more of that fundamental approach in terms of how we look at deals, how we deploy, focus on priorities?
Yep. No, definitely. It very, very much is that. And it's, when things kind of go sideways, this is sort of when the strength of your organization is really tested. And if you had that going in, you're going to be okay. You can push through it. And so I think that's all very important. And that's why the building blocks of teamwork and accountability, and really just communication, those things are so important to establish when times are good, so that when there are curveballs, you can adapt and succeed.
Yeah, and speaking of curveballs, what are you? I know it's too early to tell. You mentioned that earlier around a lot of the customer and what will come out of this and how things will look in terms of the journey people go on. But are you seeing anything, or I guess do you have your pulse on anything that you're looking in terms of the broader economy of things? Maybe even how we assess renter risk profiles in the future, things like that. What are you tracking, I guess, as an executive?
Yeah, I mean, it's we're certainly very, very much cognizant of the broader impact just from the economy at large. So, I mean, I'm tracking all sorts of economic data, especially. I mean, I think the biggest one is unemployment. I mean, that's hopefully looks to be going in the right direction. I mean, obviously, we had a serious wave of new unemployment, but the initial data is good that it's subsiding. What's going to be really critical over the next kind of really 30 days is what kind of supports we have for renters, for families, for citizens as they're going through this and trying to navigate it. So, hopefully Congress and leaders will do the right thing and kind of keep that support going for folks with whether it's enhanced unemployment or stimulus or vouchers or whatnot. But I mean, we're going to have elevated unemployment here for probably for at least the rest of the year. And this time, it's really nobody's fault. This is just kind of a punch in the gut that we took as really the whole world took. So, I'm optimistic because it's the right thing to do, and also because it's an election year that Congress will be stepping up and providing more benefits and keeping people afloat here, for the next quarter or two.
Yeah, and in terms of underwriting, and I don't want to go into the weeds too much here, but how do you, I guess in the terms of development, how do you look at pro formas and even assess due diligence on marketplace in a time like now? I mean, do you look at it the same way, or do you look at it with a little bit different risk profile? What are your thoughts around sort of acquisitions?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is we always sort of stress test our models, and it's for exactly situations like this. And sure, you can project kind of 3 or 4% rent growth, infinitum. But what happens when that's not there? What happens when it's flat for a year? What happens when it's down for a year? Does your deal still work? Are you still kind of getting to a sustainable level of cash flow? And I mean, that's something we had always looked at, kind of both on our acquisitions and our developments, and making sure that what happens when something unexpected happens and you're not in the best of times anymore. And yeah, again, I having been through a few of these before, we were always cognizant that never lasts forever. There's always something out there that stops it. And wouldn't have predicted it was this, but here we are. And after 10 years of very healthy expansion of our business, I think we were all most people were pretty cognizant that nothing lasts forever, and there was going to be a hiccup somewhere. So yeah, no, it's absolutely critical to stress test your properties and look at, what's it really take to break even? What if you're not able to raise rents? What if occupancy isn't going to go up? Or are you still going to be okay? And fortunately, we were doing that, before this happened. And we're certainly looking at it, even more critically now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you have sort of the deal makers and then the executives and then the people that have the real big picture from the long-term investment objectives of these programs that are put together, right? And then you have, the on-site teams that are closest to the customer, creating the result that actually effectively creates the outcome you really need as the big picture view of these investment vehicles. And then you have the wedge between all of them, the regional operations and managers, and you can go into maintenance and all these different elements and departments. How do you get the message out so then we can collapse a distance between, does the leasing agent and the property manager understand the big picture? Are there things that we could do differently as industries? I know we kind of get busy from deal to deal, and but it seems to me there's a big disconnect in terms of I talk to people like you and how much you care about your organization, how strong you guys have been in doing the right thing. So then when COVID and these types of things happen, you're in a great position. And then there's the new leasing agent that joins and maybe doesn't know that the value of the cap rate and the importance of the leaky faucet that they walk by or whatever that is, and how this all kind of comes together. Are there things we can do to help people sort of the executives understand a little bit more about really the pulse of what's driving those returns, and then also the on-site teams a little bit bigger picture view of the importance of their roles, really?
Right. No, that's a great question, and it's something we think about a lot. We try to, and we definitely do, have pretty robust financial education efforts for our site staff to make sure, and at the manager level and on down, that everyone understands kind of, as you pointed out, that leaky faucet or that additional $10 a month in that you can get on a renewal. How all those little micro things really fit together into the grand scheme of things and create a good result if they're all going in the right direction. So we're pretty focused on getting just really, again, that financial education and training to our site staff. I think most organizations do this as well, but obviously there's a huge compensation part of it too, where people are bonused on the financial performance of a given property. And once you set that in place, it sets the right incentives in place. And just the final step is helping to show people, okay, now that you're going to benefit if your property does better, but what are the things you can do to do that? Most people have a good sense of it, but it's important for the whole team to understand how each team member can promote those results and lead to a greater good for the team and for the company.
Yeah, I know. I'm in this business because someone helped me with some of that early on. Knowing why are we doing all of this anyway is an important question. But
well,
anything that you have that you want to add?
No, I would like to.
Great conversation.
Yeah, I know this has been really informative. John, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave our audience with today?
No, just want to say thanks to you guys for really your thought leadership in the industry and just all the programming that you do. It's really terrific, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, that means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's been a great interview. Thank you so much again for taking the time with us today. We really appreciate you coming on and being live on our show. It's been great.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
All right. Take care, John.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Very cool. That was a great interview.
That was awesome.
And we were able to just kind of go where his thoughts were. I think that some fundamental basic, or not basic, but fundamental back to the basics going on here around just if you do the right things, underwrite in the right ways, that you're going to operate from a position of strength, and that's something that organizations need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today.
Yeah, we know he's running a great team there, and I've worked with them personally, and their COO Lindsay, and they run a tight ship, but a really good one.
That's great.
Got a great team. So, all right. Well, I think that does it for us today.
Yeah, that was great. We've got a great guest coming up next week. We've got Peter Burke, the president of Best Companies Group, and he'll be talking a lot about what's happening with the Best Places to Work program that we have this year for multifamily. Again, listen, we have re-envisioned this. It's going to be an amazing program. This will be, I think, our, 6th or 7th year now doing this at the summit. And we have introduced the Best Places to Work multifamily for women. This will be the second year for that. And the only way to make that list is to be on this national list first. And exciting things about how we'll celebrate. He's going to dive in next week around those things that I talked about in terms of the new research, the COVID-19 assessment, also the work from home. And the reason why we brought them on is they also do research for the best places to work in healthcare. And that's exactly why we have a strong research partner and excited to learn more about
Well, and not
Peter.
only health,
and he does
healthcare.
snow angels.
Well, he does carpet.
Oh,
yeah,
carpet
he
angels.
makes snow angels in our plush carpet. But he runs the best places to work programs for all industries.
Right,
I mean,
right,
so
right.
he's got knowledge not only from healthcare and
Right.
multifamily, but all industries. So he's
tracking it.
He can inform us on data,
Yep.
which I think is going to be really interesting. So be sure
Don't
to
miss
tune
that.
in next week. Every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Central, and 1 p.m. Eastern. I got it right.
That's right.
We will see you next week. Thank you for joining us today.
All right, we'll see you guys.